Eyes are so fun to draw, and there are so many interesting variations to them. You get a variety of different looks just by changing up the basic shapes. You can make the eye shape quite sharp and angular, or they can be very round and smooth. You can make the eyes quite narrow and small in size, or large and round. You can slant the eyes downward at the corners, or you can make them slant upwards for a cat-like look. You can also change the distance between the eyes, making them quite close to each other or rather far apart. That's up to you. Just as a note though, I like to do just under the length of another eye in between. When I start, regardless of where I'll end up, I usually start with the most basic of shapes. So I begin with a soft oval. For me, it helps me to think about a fat jelly bean almost. After that, I add 2 triangles to the sides. I really like the look of a cat eye, so most of my characters have this. Then I fill that in with my pencil and I add a little indication of the upper eyelid. Now I go in and I add that rounded iris shape, letting the top of the round circle get covered by the upper lid. Next I add the brow shape, and then I shade with my blending stump, so it gives the bowl of the eye some form. Again with my stump, I draw in a triangular eyeshadow shape. Then I add some brow hairs with my pencil and refine the shape of the lower lash line with my kneaded eraser. I outline the iris for some added definition, add some quick wispy lashes, and then I draw the pupil and add some highlights. Here you can see that process broken down into steps if you'd like to follow along. Now let me show you all this in action. So first I wind up, and when I'm getting the hang of the round motion, I press down lightly on my paper and get those bean-like shapes going. I usually like to slant the eyes I draw slightly upwards, so you can see that I'm doing that here. Once I have those most basic of shapes, I'm going in and I'm getting more specific. So with a little hard pressure, I start adding a more defined line for the top lash line. You can decide if you want to go quite angular, or soft and round, or something in between. Now I'm making that triangular shape because I love a cat eye. I think it makes for a really pretty eye. So now I'm just defining that tear duct a little and adding a little indication of a top lid. You can add as much or as little of the top lid as you want. You don't even have to add it because some eyes won't even have it. So that's completely up to you and the look you're going for. Now I'm drawing the brows. The brows are extremely expressive, and we'll get more into that later. So for now, I'm making sure not to draw really dark, because brows I personally kind of push as I figure out the mood of the piece. They really determine the expression. You can even start brows simply by drawing with a stump. If you have a used stump, you can simply put down an arch and then add quick brow hairs. Brows, like everything else, can be pushed around into endless variations. Experiment with thickness, length, spacing, and arch. Now getting back into this, I'm just blending out the upper lids and brows. I personally like the smoothness and simplicity in characters, so I do lots of blending to achieve that. Now I'm using my darker 4B Statler to add those dark values. I color in the triangular cat-like eyeliner, so these eyes will start to pop with contrast. Contrast is what's going to grab attention in a piece. And in this character portrait, I want the focus to be her eyes. Now back with my 3/8 draft line, I'm winding up again to draw the circular irises. Once I'm ready, I lightly press down and sketch it in with a tone. This will make your drawing look more expressive and free when you draw like this, instead of being slow and forced. I like to get sketchy at a time like this because I know my stumps can always come behind and save the day. Now that I've blended things out, I need to go back in and define. That's kind of how I like to work. I sketch, smooth out, and define. I like to bounce around between these 3 techniques. I find that this helps me create a piece with a variety of textures and more visual interest. Now with some quick, short strokes, I'm drawing on those bottom lashes. If you think about it too much or go too slow, it may start to look unnatural. So practice trying to confidently draw lashes. You'll notice the lashes near the outer corners of the eyes are a bit darker compared to the very light lashes closer to the inner corners. Now I'm drawing on those top lashes, almost with a flicking motion, applying more pressure on my pencil near the root of the eyelash and lighter pressure as I get to the tip of the eyelash. You'll also notice how some of them clump together to form little triangular shapes. Now since I spent some time defining, I'm going in and smoothing with my stumps. 3H pencil is also great for subtly applying value. Now I'm adding in the pupils. I think drawing the pupils is actually optional for character drawing. I find sometimes it works, and sometimes they can just make the character look strange or like they're being hypnotized. So occasionally I'll leave the dark pupils out. But in this case, I'm going to draw them in. I blend them out and I add cast shadows with the stump to keep her from having that hypnotized look. Now it's time for my favorite part, the highlights. With a quick couple dabs, see how that just brightens up her eye? Now with my kneaded eraser, I'm gently dabbing the side opposite the eye highlight I just placed. This will complete the look of light hitting the eye. Using my 3H now, I'm just adding a little eye detail. Eyes have tons of fun and interesting details, and you can Google around to find more ideas on little details you can put in the eyes by looking at references. Now I'm just tweaking, darkening areas that I think need to have a darker value, blending areas that I think need smoothing out, and lightening areas that are just too dark. To finish up, I'm just going to add that final layer of detail. So I round out the irises, the pupils, add details to the lids, and to the brows as well. Using quick strokes, I draw in the brow hairs, similar to the quick way I drew the lashes. Now let's walk through drawing eyes in a 3/4 view.